I would like to thank Paul for his wonderful piece on the beatific vision. It points us towards the appreciation of God's self-communication to the humankind, not only through words, but also through work, including Christ's work in his incarnation, experiencing life together with his disciples, and human work as we experience his presence day by day in our ordinary work. So the beatific vision is both in words and in acts. Throughout the Bible, we also see God's presence both in words and in the form of narratives describing the experiences or the storying of God with his people and all creation. So God's self-communication is through his presence, the Holy Spirit in us, and his presence with his utmost concern with regard to our ordinary daily life. However, every day, reality confronts the worker with all the problems and troubles of modern times. Most often, work equals toils and difficulties, if not suffering. That makes it very difficult for us to see the beatific vision in the workplace. We look at oppressive work around us and say, did God do this? Did God call someone into this oppressive work? So here the question, who invented work, reminds me of a Cantonese secular pop song written in the form of a satire. Many young workers identify with the song in that it talks about earning a starting salary, selling your soul to big corporations, and giving up your dreams to chase after secular values. As Christian workers, we can identify with all these things, but at the same time, we ask for more. We look for inspiring ideas or theological insights to stimulate our minds. So can these insights actually affect our daily life? How do we become alert to God's presence and prompting in our ordinary work and be willing to live under a different set of values, kingdom values, even when it means bearing the cross? Paul quotes Eliud in saying in his article, we have to do something to perceive the work of God. We have to let God do his work through us. God's work is a mystery, especially his wide work. Indeed, God is present everywhere in our insights, in our problem solving, creation of new products, etc. But also as we get pressured by our bosses to meet targets, as we face unreasonable customers and try to find ways to deal with them. God's presence is in our daily work where we are confronted by real life issues and continuously strive to seek his guidance in all we do. Paradoxically, only when faith is challenged, it becomes real. Only when our theological or faith claims become realized in acts or how we behave, then our faith is true and alive. This is authentic living. We find our true selves and get to understand God in the complexities of ordinary daily life. Paul has described this vividly for us through embracing the beatific vision in the workplace. Paul mentioned the medieval Pope Gregory the Great, who said that the married cleaning woman might attain to the beatific vision to greater spiritual heights than the cloistered monk or nun. Now, this reminds me of a story. I was once preaching at a church about work in the marketplace. And after I finished, a lady from the congregation came to me and shared a story. She works as a cleaning lady in a large corporation. Every day she follows a fixed schedule her supervisor gives her, working on different floors of the company at various times of the day. So one day, as she was working, a manager approached her and asked her to go immediately to another floor to do something. She had to tell this manager that she cannot do so because her schedule is fixed. Well, the manager wasn't happy. So for quite a few weeks after that occasion, the manager just ignored her when she greeted her in the morning. This cleaning lady told me, she said, well, the manager ignored me, but I kept greeting her. It is because I am a Christian. I do my work for God. I was touched by her words. I believe God prized the worker in small ways like this. Paul has encouraged us to find traces of God in our work, in the way we work, and in us as workers. He has also reminded us to see God in our co-workers and in the workplace itself. I can just imagine ourselves and many others in the toils of daily life, finding it difficult to see these traces. Well, I concur that traces of God really resides in ordinary life. So my response is we need to help each other find these traces. We need to equip and nurture our congregation so that they learn to listen and discern the presence of God in each other's stories, particularly in brothers and sisters who are going through difficult times. Not only do we need to learn to discern and care for others, but also to speak wisely at appropriate times within a community that is based on trust and love. Recently, I invited an alumni to share her marketplace story in my class, and there are two parts to her story. The first part is about her inner struggles and how she faces them. She works for a big corporation where the boss is basically the center of the universe. And this boss believes in Buddhism. He was building a huge temple and she needs to be involved in the project. So she was all along struggling and trying to find traces of God in her heart as she goes through the process. What she did was not clean per se, it's messy. And the missional concern is not apparent, but that's a reality and she has to deal with it. The second part of her sharing was very Christian-like and uplifting. She and her colleagues have regular prayer meetings in their office. Annually, they do a Christmas caroling at the lobby of their main building, Central District in Hong Kong. And their boss, this strong believer in Buddhism, would celebrate Christmas with them. They have done this for the past 7 or 8 years. So my MDiv class future pastors, they are really excited when they see these images and videos shared in the second part. But I told them, when I walk alongside this alumni or this sister, every time she was telling me how their team is falling apart, how they cannot get things together for this year's Christmas event, etc. So the pastor's focus is not the uplifting events or results. It is the process, more in the first part of the story, when things are messy and difficult. We have to equip and can encourage our marketplace Christians to face the struggles. Yeah. But like all humans, pastors and leaders are more interested in the results, visible outcomes. That's part 2 of the story. But without part 1, there's no part 2. We need to find the beatific vision in the darkest moments or toils in our work with the courage and willingness to live it through. Yeah. And last but most importantly, Paul tells us prayer is work and work is prayer. So let's all pray fervently that we all do our tiny part in this global marketplace movement, one that is from God in his way, in his time and his will. Thank you.